Om. 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 Om Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tatvamasyadilakshyam Ekam Nityam Vimalachalam Sarvadhitam Bhavatitam Triguణarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Vande Guru Paramparam Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet. Jai Gurudev.
Just give me a minute. Let me connect to my computer. One second. Om Shri Krishna Paramatmane Namaha. अथ षोडशोऽध्यायः दैवासुरसम्पद्विभागयोगः. Today, for want of time, we will skip the chanting and we'll go directly to the PDF. And we'll continue the reading from where we left yesterday. So we stopped at Tyaga yesterday. Tyaga, Shankara says, is either a lifestyle of sannyasa or karma phala tyaga, which is giving up all results of actions in order to know yourself. Once you have tyaga, all results that come under artha and kama do not interest you. You perform action as a thing to be done only for the purpose of antahkarana shuddhi. Whether you physically renounce the world or not, you have the spirit of tyaga, absence of ownership and attachment. This vairagya, dispassion, born of maturity, is sattviki. Shanti. Shanti is resolution of the mind, antahkarana. This is possible only if there is no self-judgment. The mind has various phases, and if there is self-judgment, it can create problems in a vicious circle. If, for instance, the mind is restless and you judge yourself as restless, the mind will only become more restless. To then resolve that restlessness is very difficult. So, you avoid creating the vicious circle by refusing to judge yourself on the basis of the mind. This is a very important thing to know. The mind has its own logic. Suddenly, it will think of something that seems to have no connection to anything. We can inquire into the logic of it, but it is enough to know that the mind has a logic of its own. I do not know why it thinks the way it does, nor do I need to know. The important thing is, I do not judge it, but enjoy it as it is. As long as it is available for me whenever I need to use it, why should I bother about what it does on its own time? It is important also to give the mind enough time off. If I do not, then it will take the time away anyway without my permission and not be available when I need it. Even if this is the case, as long as I do not make a judgment about it, there is no problem. Everything, including psychological issues, ceases to be a problem if I refuse to make a judgment about myself on the basis of my mind. Such a judgment can undermine the understanding of Vedanta. The problem is often expressed by the statement of a mumukshu. Vedanta says, I am Satchid Ananda, but I do not experience it. Satchid Ananda is not something to be experienced, it is to be understood. The vision is that you are Satchidananda, the reality of everything and independent of everything. If you say that you do not understand this, that is a legitimate problem. That is why we have so many texts. Shankara would not have written such elaborate bhashyas if people could easily understand. For someone who is studying, not understanding should not be a problem. It just means I have to understand. And so I keep trying to understand till I understand. Shastra says, you are Satchid Ananda in spite of your mind, in spite of all the desirable and undesirable characteristics of your upadhi. Even if you consider a brilliant, pure mind to adumbrate Satchidananda, when we are talking about Sarvajnatva and so on, it is insignificant. It is something like decorating a broomstick with precious ornaments. No matter how wonderful the upadhi may be, it is not limitless Satchidananda. Comparison, therefore, has no meaning here. There is no comparison with Satchidananda because in the final analysis, there is only Satchit Ananda. And differences in upadhis are a matter for resolution, not comparison. When I have to negate even the difference in the manifest form of the Lord and the individual, Jiva Ishvara Buddhi Beda, how does it help me to turn my attention to the differences between individual and individual? I repeat the statement. When I have to negate even the difference in the manifest form of the Lord and the individual, that is Jiva Ishvara Buddhi Beda, how does it help me to turn my attention to the differences between individual and individual? The Shruti talks so much about negating any difference whatsoever. When the Shastra is urging me to drop various things in my vision of myself, why should I want to have additional features? It is something like wishing that a dead body should be slim or fat for burial or cremation. When I have to give up my sense of being the body, mind, and senses, how many embellishments should they have? The properties of the upadhi are irrelevant here because the whole teaching is that you should not judge yourself on the basis of your upadhi. If that is clearly seen, even relatively, it gives you some space. Suppose you find yourself frequently judging yourself. You can see that the very judging is a thought, one particular type of thinking. Then you try to find out how the judging takes place with a readiness to accept what is there. When you no longer refuse to accept a fact, resolution, shanti is natural. A factual problem may remain, which you can always attempt to solve, but there is no problem due to non acceptance of a fact. By rejecting a fact, we are never going to solve any problem. If not today, tomorrow we have to accept it. And the more we learn how to accept facts, the more we find there is shanti. Various disciplines like pranayama can also help us gain a relative measure of shanti. Apaishuna. Looking for omissions and commissions in the thinking or behavior of others and making sure everyone else knows of these limitations is called paishuna. And absence of paishuna is apaishuna. It is all right to talk about the good qualities of one person to another. In fact, it is good because it confirms what is good in you and in others. But talking about the defects of others, looking for problems, and then exaggerating them and presenting them out of context, in other words, gossiping, is paishuna. This is not helpful to us. We gossip because we are not happy with ourselves. And it is often a way of trying to handle jealousy. By talking about the limitations of someone I am jealous of, I may keep my jealousy under control, but I am not dealing with it. I am only creating additional problems for myself. Through gossip, I try to escape from myself. There are many means of escape, like excessive eating or working, but gossiping more than the others spoils both my mind and the mind of the person who listens to me. It is destructive. It is better to stay with myself and look at the problem that is creating the pressure for me to talk about someone else. That will lead to apaishuna. Daya. Daya is compassion towards another being who is suffering or in pain of any kind. This includes not only a human being, but any other kind of living being, whether it is a tree, a creeper, or a frog struggling to survive, or a person suffering from an emotional or a physical pain. One feels sympathy towards that living being. This is daya. This is another form of love that expresses because of empathy, because of identifying with the pain of another. The capacity to empathize is innate to a human being, and it is important not to repress this very natural response. If, without subjecting yourself to pain, you act upon this empathy, that is daya. It must always be active in expressing one's daya because passive daya is useless to the person who is suffering and only creates problems for you. Once you respond to your empathy with a helpful action, it is over. Otherwise, you develop guilt for not acting on that empathy. And as a result of that guilt, you try to justify your refusal to act. This justification requires a distortion in your thinking and a denial of what is spontaneous and very natural. Daya is an expression of love. When the object of love is a living being in pain, the love expresses in the form of daya. Everyone has daya. When your finger is hurt, you are full of daya for that finger, and you expect it from others too. It is an emotion that everyone knows, but most often it goes unexpressed. Therefore, we have to cultivate it by refusing to suppress it. And surely, sometimes its expression has to be properly edited. Even if it is a situation where you are helpless to act, at least you can make a prayer for the person. But it has to be acted upon. Daya cannot be kept inside, it has to be expressed. That is why every day we pray. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May everyone be happy. Because I do not want to be unhappy, I understand that nobody else wants to be unhappy either. The more we pay attention to our empathy, the more sympathy we will have in our expression of thought, word, and deed. Aloluptva. Aloluptva is an absence of longing in the presence of desirable sense objects. It is one thing to be unmoved in the absence of objects, but quite another to remain so in their presence. That is why when we go to a big departmental store, we come out with more than what we intended to buy. Buying just what you wanted takes a lot of self control. In cultivating this value of aloluptva, practice is important. Without removing the sense objects, though perhaps that may be helpful in the beginning, you appreciate all of them without a longing arising in you. Even if a fancy occurs, you do not respond to it. In shopping, for instance, you allow all your fancies and impulses to arise, but purchase only what you really need. This is considered sattvika because it requires a discriminative mind. If that is not operative, you become subject to longing, and in this instance, impulsive buying. This is what we call lo luptva, an expression of rajas. Mardava. Mardava is absence of cruelty. It comes from the word mridu, which means soft. The petal of a flower is mridu. A softness, a kindness in attitude is what we call mardava. People should be able to talk to you freely, happily, without fear of harsh words. This is mardava. There are some people who are kind but very harsh in their expression. There is a story that illustrates the different types of people. An old Brahmana arrived in a village just at lunchtime. One person spoke to him very nicely for about 5 minutes and then asked if he had eaten. When he replied that he had not, the villager lamented that his household had just finished their meal and directed him to another house. His words were all spoken softly, like a knife going into butter. When the Brahmana went to the other house, he was greeted curtly, but fed abundantly and was invited to rest also. These are the two types. One, non giving and soft, the other, very giving but very harsh. The second is definitely better but we need to be both giving and soft. The softness is very important because it implies accommodation, accepting the limitations of others, and understanding from where they come. 3. 3 is a particular kind of shyness. This is not a general shyness, but a shying away from praise about yourself and from extolling your own glories. Sometimes you have to tell your qualifications, but then you remain objective, not flattering yourself. It is a very natural modesty or humility. Achapala. Achapala is another important thing. It is the absence of activity of speech, hands, legs, etc., without a purpose, says Shankara. This means living a purposeful and very alert life in which your actions become deliberate. That brings about a change in the mind because chapala is an expression of agitation. With practice, achapala can be accomplished easily, but it takes some attention. It is very important that it be done without tension so that the mind is relaxed enough for proper shravana. With knowledge of Atma, achapala becomes very natural. But without inner freedom, alertness needed to maintain achapala can create tension. It is advised as a practice here only as a discipline leading to the discovery of inner freedom, not as an end in itself. This achapala is very natural to a sattvika mind. One may be sattvika but still have agitations. If that is so, some external discipline will reduce the disturbance. Tejas. One second. Oh, sorry, you're not able to see PDF on screen? Is that, are you able to see?
We can see.
Oh, I just saw the chat just now. One second. Let me just.
No, we can see Brahmaraji.
You can see, right? Okay.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And Belaji, don't worry. I'll take care of this. Huh? Not to worry. Tejas. Tejas means brilliance, not the shine of your skin, but inner brilliance, says Shankara. He defines it as a capacity to face difficult challenges with self confidence. Kshama. Kshama means composure. Even when you are addressed by someone who is angry or assaulted in some way, there is no change within you. This is possible because you do not internalize the other person's behavior, but just allow him to be what he is and wait for the disturbance to pass. No angry response arises in you. If anger arises and you resolve it, that is called akrodha. If anger does not arise, it is kshama. This is an accommodation which permits you to understand the other person. Unless you have the readiness to allow a person to be as he or she is, there is no way of understanding him or her. Making another person feel understood is not an easy thing. It takes a lot of kshama. Dhriti. Dhriti is generally translated as fortitude. But here, Shankara is more explicit. He says that when the body and sense organs are tired or in pain due to illness or age or some defect, the attitude that makes you not mind the pain, is what we call dhriti. Even though there is pain, there is a capacity to happily put up with it, not yielding to expressions of complaint. Shaucha. Shaucha cleanliness is of two kinds, inner and outer. External cleanliness means keeping the body, clothing, and the environment clean. This is an important discipline because it helps create a healthy frame of mind. Inner cleanliness is a mental disposition that is the opposite of one assailed by emotions like hatred. Whenever these disturbing emotions are detected, they are replaced by their opposite. If there is enmity, we replace it with understanding and, if possible, friendliness. If there is hatred, we analyze what is that is hated and try to understand it. If the understanding is complete, love or compassion will naturally arise. If it is not, we deliberately introduce these emotions, shifting our attention to what is lovable about the person or why he or she is deserving of compassion. One has to look into one's own mind, and as these emotions arise, create the opposite attitude, pratipaksha bhavana, and thereby develop a mind which is predominantly sattva. Other important ways of bringing about inner cleanliness are daily prayers, japa, and meditation. These are all cleansing acts because there is surrender involved. Anything the mind might have gathered is dropped in prayer. What sorts of things does the mind pick up that it needs to be freed from? Shankara lists deceit and being under the spell of likes and dislikes. Having likes and dislikes is not a problem, but when under their spell, we act against dharma. If your likes and dislikes happen to correspond with right and wrong, you are totally free. But if one goes against dharma to fulfill likes and dislikes, we are constrained to say that the person is under the spell of raga dveshas. This is the impurity and it has to be cleansed by prayer and pratipaksha bhavana. Adroha. Adroha is absence of hurting. Since we have already discussed ahimsa and have defined it as absence of any harmful action, adroha is to be taken as the absence of even a thought of hurting another. The word ahimsa can itself include absence of even thoughts of hurting if there is no special mention of another word like adroha. But since adroha is cited separately, the meaning of ahimsa is restricted to the absence of oral and physical actions of hurting. With adroha, the harmful thought is also diminished, is dismissed. When there is not even a desire to hurt another, that is adroha. Nati manita. Atimanita is pretentiousness with a demand for respect. A certain amount of manita, self respect, is necessary in order to be together as a person. It is healthy. Otherwise, you will undermine yourself with self criticism. Atimanita, pretentiousness, demanding respect from others, is what is negated here. It is an excess of manita. The absence of this attitude is nati manita. It makes for just a simple person. All the virtues mentioned in these three verses, beginning from Abhaya, are the characteristics of the Devas. When human beings have them, they are said to have Daivi Sampat. If they die without the knowledge of the self, they will become devas. But if they are exposed to Vedanta Pramana, they will definitely discover that they are free.
Jai Gurudev, Dr. Brahma, can I ask one question here or later?
Yeah.
It was just regarding the self-respect, and did we discuss, because I missed 2-3 sessions maybe because I was in Rishikesh. So did we discuss the self-respect and difference between self-respect and self-esteem?
Not in what Swamiji's PDF right now, no.
What differentiates them? Like, what is the there is a difference, of course. That self-esteem, in this paragraph, Swamiji is saying you should have that a little bit of self-respect. You should have this line: a certain amount of manita is necessary in order to be together as a person. So will be related with that self-esteem? Just thinking over that,
I think self-esteem might be pride. You take pride in your.
I was thinking in other way. I was thinking that you should have some self-esteem, and of course that when you'll have self-esteem, then you will have that self-respect.
Self-respect is what Swamiji is talking about.
Not self-esteem.
Self-respect.
Yeah, but how will self-esteem fit in then? Like,
see, your
Didi, if you could,
is
Didi, if you could explain by
others
practical example.
Yeah. See, self-respect is you respect yourself irrespective of whether others respect you or not. Whereas if you are when you're talking of manita, ati manita, you are not deserving of that respect of whatever, but then you demand that respect. So when you are coming from the space of demand, then it becomes vanity, it becomes pride. But little bit of self-respect is required where you are honoring yourself. You're coming from that space of honor where you accept yourself. You're not dependent on approval from others. See, if you're always wanting to get approval from others, then you're in the asking mode, you're in the beggar mode. You're begging for acceptance from others. You will not feel complete yourself. But here, I think Swamiji is talking of that little bit of self-respect is you're feeling complete from within. Otherwise, you'll start putting yourself only down. No, you'll be like tearing your own application. You'll be self-critical about yourself all the time. So that self-respect is important to be together as a person. I don't know whether that.
No, the self here, if you can take it as Atma, means you are Atma. Means you are undermining yourself if you don't have self-respect. Then all the problems starts.
Yeah.
Like if you feel some lackness inside you, and you to fulfill that you demand respect from others.
See, you are.
You feel incomplete, no? You feel incomplete. That
but
is
you
why
are
you
Purna.
demand respect from others.
You are Purna actually. Then you don't demand at all.
So when you find something is amiss in you, rather than sit in self-judgment, Swamiji is goading us to understand it. Use the Pratipaksha Bhavana there. Like we use the Pratipaksha Bhavana for others. We use the same thing and we understand where is this negative thinking about coming from. He remember in the previous one where he talks of how you must let the mind be and not equate yourself to the mind. and not identify yourself with the upadhi. The mind is restless, and you would say, "Oh, I am restless." Then it becomes a vicious circle. So you will sit in self judgment of yourself, and to get out of that becomes difficult. So it is the mind. The mind has no logic of its own. Some random thought comes, and that thought could be, "Oh, I am restless." But let it be. Do not identify yourself with the mind. Understand from where it is coming from. Then you will be able to um, not get into its clutches. So that way, of course, all of us we're all work in progress, and we have our own weaknesses. So rather than getting caught up in labeling ourselves and self judging ourselves, you understand it and then go forward. So that way we handle the mind. And therefore, that self respect there, um, it's more out of understanding rather than uh, demanding it from others.
No, if you know that you are Atma, means you are unlimited, you are Purna. See, when I want respect, when I lack something, I search for other things, So when you feel that you are Purna, yourself, means that self-respect you have to the self, then you don't demand any respect from others.
Maybe I would like to come in here. Self-respect would mean having self-esteem for yourself. Self-esteem would mean not having pride and ego. It's like the classical mother-in-law, daughter-in-law situation where the mother-in-law chids the daughter-in-law in front of everybody or speaks ill of the daughter-in-law. When you have self-esteem and self-respect for yourself, you know that you are doing all the housework and she is only commanding and demanding, bring me a cup of tea, whatever. So you are doing all the housework. When you realize this, that self-esteem is there, that I am doing all the work, and therefore then you are not led away by negative emotions. You don't have that anger coming up for you because you realize that you are doing all the work. So that is the difference between ego and self-esteem, self-respect. Coming to the level of Atma and all that, I think here it is respect for the self as it is, because you are doing all the work. And then you will be able to live in harmony with the mother. That is what the sage is trying to say here. Then otherwise, if you have negative emotions towards the mother-in-law, then thoughts travel faster than words, and she will provoke you more. So that is a fine difference between pride, ego, and self-esteem, self-respect. Jai Gurudev.
So self-esteem is our inner quality. Like it is that with which we live. Self-esteem, and we don't, and we have respect also. Like I think they go hand in hand. If you have self-esteem, you respect yourself. You if you are on the dharmic, on the dharma path, then you won't shake by others' opinion or your like labeling. So it is that you are grounded to your values. You would not be shaken by others' opinion.
Yes, simply put, your mind is under your control. You don't get
Yeah,
provoked by somebody saying something.
yeah,
Basically, I would think it is self acceptance.
Yes, absolutely. I was about to say that.
Yeah. You're accepting of
yeah. I
yourself.
think they are all they are all synonyms, I feel.
Mm.
Yeah,
More than self-acceptance, it is acceptance of the other's actions also.
yeah.
Self-respect, self-esteem is required when somebody is more trying to provoke you. So it is the acceptance of the person just the way that person is, whether it is the mother-in-law or whatever.
Thank you.
Yeah. It will also help if we can read what I think Gurudev has given a beautiful difference between the self-esteem, self-respect. So if we can go to that knowledge sheet and
Yeah,
read that, that will be
yes.
useful.
That knowledge sheet is very, very good.
That can, maybe we can post that later after we finish the session for us to get a deeper understanding. So we'll go forward. Asuri Sampat. Now Krishna begins the description of the Asuri Sampat, first briefly, then in detail. These characteristics are told here so that we know what to avoid. The idea is that in the avoidance of the negative, the positive is also cultivated. Dambho darpotimanascha क्रोधः पारुष्यमेव च अज्ञानं चाभिजातस्य पार्थसम्पदमासुरीम्. Arjuna, the one who is born to the wealth of an asura, has hypocrisy with reference to dharma, pride, a tendency to demand respect, anger, harshness, and indeed a lack of discrimination. Asuri means that which belongs to an asura. All our literature is replete with the altercations between the devas and the asuras, who, as you can see now, represent our internal conflicts. Everybody enjoys the qualities of a deva to an extent. Absence of hurting, compassion, love, and so on are all very natural, at least towards oneself, under certain circumstances. And the qualities of an asura are also there. These two are always at loggerheads and are portrayed in our stories as battles between the devas and the asuras. Even if there is a person who seems to embody the qualities of an asura, it is not because he is bad, but because his thinking is wrong. All conflicts first happen within and then express themselves in the external world. Every war is first waged in the mind. If it cannot be resolved there, it expresses itself externally. With proper inquiry, these conflicts get resolved as they arise. We are not trying to avoid their occurrence. That is natural. But we resolve them within so that they do not find an external expression. If that resolving capacity is not there, or the people around do not help the resolution but inflame the conflict, a war erupts. The Mahabharata war could not be avoided only because of this Asuri Sampat. It is very pertinent for Lord Krishna to talk about Asuri Sampat here because it has brought the war that Arjuna is facing. All the problems are because of Duryodhana's thinking, which is here called Asuri Sampat. Here we must understand that there is no person who has only these qualities. Everyone has some measure of Daivi Sampat too. The Asuri Sampat is being detailed here only to understand what it is. Dambha. Dambha, Shankara says, is hypocrisy with reference to dharma. Dharma, dvajitva. Someone who has dambha proclaims himself as one who follows dharma, doing noble actions, not for the benefit of others, but for his own recognition. In giving charity, for instance, his motive is not charity, but to build up his own image. He is not giving charity, in fact, but investing money for self-promotion. Whether he has them or not, he proclaims his own glories. This quality in him which makes him do that is called damba. Darpa. Darpa is pride. Because of some knowledge or skill or some wealth, either inherited or earned, or perhaps because of being born in a good family, or any of a number of things, not understanding all the factors responsible for what he has garva, pride. Atimana. Atimana, we have seen, is an exaggerated opinion about oneself or demanding respect from others. Krodha. Krodha is anger. Because you are not able to accomplish something, there is an anguish born of disappointment. This anguish can develop into krodha, anger. Once a person is overcome by anger, he forgets all that he knows about what is to be done and what is not to be done, and will repeat the same actions that brought him such dire consequences before. His behavior is destructive, not only to himself, but to others. We have seen this in detail earlier. Parushya. Parushya is the opposite of Mardava, softness in speaking, etc. It is harshness in speech, talking in a manner that is hurtful to others, especially with sarcasm or a derisive laughter. Shankara says it is calling someone who has one eye or any other defect beautiful. This criticism in the form of sarcasm hurts people. Using words without any sensitivity for the damage they can do is parushya. That is why we pray every day, Jihva me madhumattama. May my tongue, speech be most sweet. Ajnana. Ajnana means an understanding that is without proper discrimination. Ignorance is not a problem, but the conclusions that are distorted with reference to right and wrong wreak havoc. Unethical behavior is justified as, for example, pragmatic business practice. This is what we call moral decay. It is all due to the pressure to have money based on the wrong conclusion that money will provide security. It is one thing to find yourself doing things that you wish you could avoid, but it is another to make a philosophy out of it. This is what is meant by ajnana here. It is not simple ignorance, but a false perception attributing to something a value which it does not possess, like seeing security where there is no security at all. First, there is a confusion of value, and then naturally, a dharma adharma aviveka, a confusion of priorities. The atma anatma aviveka, a confusion with reference to atma and anatma, can also be called ajnana. But since we are talking about asuras, here we are not dealing with atma anatma ajnana, but with ajnana with reference to dharma and adharma. These are the qualities of someone who has the wealth of an asura, asuri sampat. In the next verse, Krishna talks about the lot of the two types of people, those who have the wealth of a deva or spiritual wealth, and those who have the wealth of an asura. Daivi sampadvimokshaya nibandhaya surimata mashucha sampadam daivim abhijatosi pandava. Spiritual wealth is considered to be for freedom, the wealth of an asura for bondage. Do not grieve, Arjuna. You are born to spiritual wealth. Daivi sampat leads to moksha and asuri sampat leads to bondage. The accomplishments of a deva, Daivi sampat, are for the purpose of freeing oneself, moksha. The prefix vi here is for emphasis. Nobody wants to be free from something that is desirable. Freedom implies a bondage without which there is no freedom. What is this bondage? It can be physical and it can also be emotional. There are things that I cannot leave. Even though I think that I have them, in fact, they have me. In the beginning, perhaps, I held them, but in time, they begin to hold me. In a prison, though you are physically bound, you need not feel bound. The entire physical world, including your own physical body, mind, and senses, should not be able to bind you. The freedom we are seeking is from the original bondage, the notion, I am bound, expressing as I am wanting, I am limited, I am mortal, I am other than Ishvara. The moment I see myself as different from anything, there is fear and a sense of bondage. The one who sees no division is free, not only from fear, but from everything. The moksha we are seeking here is not any relative moksha within samsara that will only last for some time, but moksha from samsara. This Daivi Sampat is the basis for jnana, that is moksha. The Asuri Sampat, on the other hand, is meant for bondage. It does not create bondage because the notion of bondage already exists. But with these characteristics of Asuri Sampat, the bondage is perpetuated. To get released from samsara, we require Daivi Sampat. To remain in it, we require Asuri Sampat. Though it is not mentioned, Shankara includes Rakshasi Sampat in his commentary. A Rakshasa is someone from whom you have to protect things, your belongings, self-respect, children, your very life, even your punya. Someone who does not even allow you to perform good actions is called a Rakshasa.
Brahmanaji,
Yes.
little I want to discuss. Sorry for disturbance. The last sentence before this can go. Asuri Sampat, the bondage is perpetuated. To get released from samsara, we require Daivi Sampat. To remain in it, we require Asuri Sampat. That is not correct, no?
To remain
Even
in samsara.
Oh, it's right. Like it's like if you require Devi Sampat to remain to release from that sansara, you require the Devi Sampat. This is definite. But until unless you know the Asuri Sampat, you would not be able to work up upon yourself to improve yourself. Like if you have some bad quality, you must know it. No, after that only you will improve it. So to get released from sansara, you require Devi, and to remain in it, in that Devi Sampat, we require Asuri Sampat.
To remain in samsara, we require Asuri Sampat.
that is a must. That is, I think, okay. A confirmation for remaining in the samsara. But even if you have Daivi Sampat, and if you don't have the knowledge, then we will remain in the samsara, but with a this one, But if you have the Asuri Sampat, you will guarantee remain in the samsara. Okay, that may we can.
So earlier,
When
it was
we
said
started, yeah, we
person.
started, no, Asuri Sampat, when we started, we just started the Asuri Sampat. Swamiji has mentioned, no, these characteristics are told here so that we know what to avoid.
Avoid.
The idea is that in the avoidance of the negative, the positive is also cultivated. So this is the crux, like what you are asking.
Okay. Okay,
Also,
thank you.
a person who has Daivi Sampat and does not um, attain self-knowledge will remain as a Deva, and he will continue his it not
Okay.
go. But whereas
Okay.
a person who has Daivi Sampat is exposed to Vedanta Pramana, he will ultimately attain self-knowledge.
Knowledge.
That was a very reassuring statement that was given. So Daivi Sampat will not go a waste. This is the
That yes, that was
dhana,
yes. Dhana, yes.
dhana that you'll actually
Okay.
go forward. Rakshasi Sampat is not really much different from Asuri Sampat, so only Asuri Sampat is discussed here. Whenever we make divisions like this, people wonder to which category they belong. This self-judgment is our natural tendency. Arjuna may have been the same. To reassure him, Krishna says here, Ma Shuchaha, do not grieve or worry. If we analyze ourselves, we all find that we have some Daivi Sampat and some Asuri Sampat. Arjuna is no exception. Krishna does not want him to entertain any doubt about his qualifications, and so he tells him, you are born to Daivi Sampat. And in addressing him as Pandava, he reminds him that he is the son of Pandu, a great man, and hence has all the virtues of a Deva, which equip him for moksha. Now Krishna is going to continue to talk about Asuri Sampat. The portions that are coming are very relevant to modern thinking, especially the whole corporate mentality and market psychology. The corporate mentality is expressed as, today I got this, tomorrow I will get that. And the psychology of the market is how to convince someone to part with his money. All that is being discussed. Dvau bhuta sargau lokesmin daiva asura eva cha daivo vistarasha proktaha asuram partha me shrunu. In this world, there are two types of created beings, the Daiva, divine, and Asura. The divine have been extensively spoken of. Listen to me, Arjuna, about the characteristics belonging to the Asuras. Two types of beings, Devas and Asuras. In this world, the created beings referred to here, Shankara says, are human beings, those who are subject to karma and look upon themselves as doers and enjoyers. In other words, the jivas. Of these, there are two types, those endowed with divine virtues and those with the attributes belonging to the asuras. As Shankara presents it, some of them are born with these qualities because, according to the Shruti, those who are born of Prajapati are twofold, the Devas and the Asuras. Dvayaha Prajapatya Devascha Asurascha. Brihadaranyaka. Since the beginning, these two types have been here. And we do see that from birth, some people show certain tendencies. Of these two, the qualities of a Deva have been explained. Now, Krishna is going to give a detailed description of the characteristics of an Asura. And he says to Arjuna, listen to me, me shrunu. Generally, when we draw someone's attention like this, it is to say something positive. Why should Krishna invite Arjuna to listen to this description of all the Asuri qualities? Shankara says, it is for the purpose of avoiding those very things. It is as important to know the don'ts as the do's here. Till the end of this chapter, the Asuri Sampat is going to be detailed, nothing else, because it is possible to give up these attributes only when they are very clearly known. Therefore, there is an elaborate description of them starting in the next verse. प्रवृत्तिञ्च निवृत्तिञ्च जनान विदुरासुराः न शौचं नापि चाचारो न सत्यं तेषु विद्यते. People who have qualities belonging to the asuras do not know what is to be done and what is to be withdrawn from. There is neither inner cleanliness nor proper conduct nor truthfulness in them. The disposition of asuras. The person that we know as an asura, who is not able to see anything beyond the enjoyments that one can command through sensory perceptions, does not know pravritti or nivritti. These are technical terms for the two types of karmas, those that are to be done and those not to be done. Some are Vaidiki injunctions, which are concerned with rituals, prayers, and ethical conduct, while others involve Laukika activities like cooking, eating, and even charity, etc. Apart from what is prescribed, we all know by common sense and by our expectations of how we want others to behave towards us, what is to be what is proper and what is improper conduct. Shankara connects it to the means for gaining what is desired, Purushartha. Whether one wants Artha, Kama, or Moksha, there is something to be done and something not to be done to achieve the desired end. Those of an Asuri disposition do not know what is to be done and what is to be refrained from. Or they know, but do not give any heed to their knowledge. Which thief does not know, for instance, that he should not steal? He knows it very well, because he does not want anything to be stolen from him. But at the same time, he lacks assimilation of that value of not stealing. He knows the value, but not the value of the value. He does not understand that his behavior is not good for his own well-being, but is, on the other hand, the cause for what is undesirable. He does not know that it is anartha hetu. Further, they do not know how to keep the mind clean. That is, there is no inner cleanliness, na shaucham. That is, they do not know how to avoid hatred, etc. They also lack religious discipline and proper conduct in interacting. Na apicha acharaha. Their speech is lacking in truth, na satyam. Once you tell a lie, you are committed to a pattern of falsehood. Because to defend that one lie, you invariably have to tell another one, and so on. Nobody tells just one lie and is able to leave it at that. A lie has to be protected, and therefore one lie is always followed by a few more, and they have to be protected. So there are a few more to be told. Telling one lie is like trying to pick up one noodle. It does not happen that way. Therefore, Shankara calls these people Mayavis, deceitful people, which he explains as anarthavadis, those who speak untruth. असत्यमप्रतिष्ठन्ते जगदाहुरनीश्वरम् अपरस्परसम्भूतं किमन्यत् कामहैतुकम्. They say this world of people is untruthful, without ethical basis, godless, and is born of the union of male and female, is driven by passion and nothing else. Not only do they live such a life, they also hold certain opinions and are very vociferous in making these opinions known to others. People, Jagat, they say, are untruthful, asatya. The word Jagat here does not mean the world, but people. Because they themselves tell lies, they expect that others also lie. Their own behavior colors their perception of the world. For them, the only question is who lies better. This is because they believe that lying is necessary for survival. Further, they consider that people have no ethical basis for their behavior. Actually, our interactions are based on dharma and adharma, on the understanding that there is proper and improper behavior leading to desirable and undesirable results, punya and papa. These people do not think so. They subscribe to the philosophy of materialism expressed in the statement, as long as one lives, one should live happily, incurring debt and drinking ghee. From where is the return for the body that is reduced to ashes? Yavat jivet sukham jivet, ऋणम कृत्वा धृतं पिबेत. Bhasmibhutasya dehasya punaragamanam kutaha. So this is their understanding. In their thinking, the end of securing happiness justifies any means, and there is no retribution for the means employed. These are called the lokayatikas, the naturalists or mechanical materialists. You can incur debts, load your credit cards, and not worry about paying them back. Since punya and papa are not visible, adrishta, they do not believe in their existence. You can get away with anything because once this physical body is destroyed, from where does the person return to account for his behavior? Life, they believe, is meant for enjoyment. If punya and papa are accepted, we are accountable for our actions and will have to pay later in another life. But for them, there is nothing beyond this life. So, there is no basis for dharma and adharma. Happiness is dependent only on what you get and what you get here in this world. So, any method is valid. The end justifies the means. If, on the other hand, you accept punya and papa, you have to accept a law and necessarily an ordainer of that law. In other words, an order under which this universe functions and a God who gives the results of action, according to dharma and adharma, have to be accepted. Such a God does not exist for these people who have asuri sampat. It is inimical to their philosophy and therefore they claim that there is no law or any ordainer of that law. They say the world is anishvara. If there is no dharma, adharma and punya, papa, how are people born? The only cause for them to be born is the coming together of male and female, driven by lust, kama haituka. In their opinion, a person is the way he or she is only because of genetics. There is no consideration of a selection of parentage based on punya papa. It is all natural selection. Because punya papa or the order of Ishvara are not seen in the act of creation, they are presumed do not exist. Since all that is seen is the coming together of male and female driven by their passions, that is the only cause they acknowledge, nothing else. And they say, Kim anyat, what else? In their opinion, Shankara says here, passion alone is the cause of living beings. In this philosophy, where there is no punya papa, there is nothing to account for. Therefore, the pursuit will be to grab as much as you can, as quickly as you can. There is no time to waste, because if your life is cut short, you will be deprived of enjoyment. And if you grow old, you cannot enjoy either. The entire philosophy is, in the few years you have, paint the town red. The prevailing law is survival of the fittest. And the one who is the most fit is the one who is most deceptive and manipulative. This is their philosophy of life. Since the intention is to do a complete reading, we will skip Manana and we'll just continue reading, if that's okay with everybody. Because we've done this already, we've done a repeat several times. So this time, let it just be a continuous read. एतां दृष्टिमवष्टभ्य नष्टात्मानोऽल्पबुद्धयः प्रभवन्त्युग्रकर्माणः क्षयाय जगतो हिताः. Having recourse to this view, these enemies of the world, whose minds are destroyed, who are of meager thinking and cruel actions, are there very much for the destruction of the world. They are nashtatmas. For people who have this view, Shankara says, there is no means to attain another world, no thought that there could be another birth. This is because their minds are destroyed. They are nashtatmas, meaning they have no discrimination either about what is real or about what action is to be chosen in a given situation. Even in simple matters, there is great confusion because they have fallen from dharma and adharma and therefore are going to suffer later. They are considered nashtatmas. And they are alpa buddhayaha, of meager thinking. Shankara says their mind is committed to nothing beyond sense perception. What they see alone is the truth, and anything more than what the senses can enjoy has no reality. Alpa means little. We cannot say they are completely lacking in intellect because they do make choices, but the discrimination behind their choices is very limited. If they have no capacity to choose, like the cows who know exactly what they should eat and what they have to do to survive, the Shastra need not address them. Further, they are people whose actions are cruel, ugra karmana. When the end justifies the means, we become cruel. This is because our end is so important to us that we do not worry about our impact on others or about their needs and wants. My end alone becomes so important that when there is a choice of means, my only consideration is how beneficial it is to achieving my end. By fair means or foul, I will achieve it. This makes me a person of cruel actions because I do not mind hurting others as long as I can get something for myself. The word Jagataha in this verse can be connected to the word Ahitaha and to the word Kshayaya. When a word is placed between two words and can be connected by both, it is analogous to a lamp on a threshold that illumines both the outside and the inside. That is, this is called the Dehali Deepa Nyaya. Thus, by this Nyaya, the word Jagataha connects with the word Ahitaha and the word Kshayaya. Ahita means those who are inimical to the world. This behavior is destructive to the well-being of others. They are born and are there very much around, prabhavanti, to create problems for the world and thus for the destruction of the world. Jagataha kshayaya. Their thinking is very calculating, always reckoning what they have and planning what they will get, not minding that it is at the cost of the happiness of others. काममाश्रित्य दुष्पूरं दम्भमानमदान्विताः मोहात् गृहीत्वात् सद्ग्राहान् प्रवर्तन्ते शुचिव्रताः. Resorting to desire that is difficult to fulfill, those who are riddled with pretension, demand for respect and pride, whose pursuits are unbecoming, having adopted false purposes due to delusion, engage themselves in various actions. They engage in actions for false purposes. The three words Dambha, Mana, and Mada have very little difference in meaning, but when they are used together, we have to discern the distinct sense of each. Dambha, as we have seen, is making one's own glories known to others, whether one has them or not, by self-glorification through speech, dress, etc. Mana is the attitude, I am praiseworthy and demand your respect. That is very evident in the behavior of the person, whether it is verbalized or not. Mada is a particular kind of pride. Because of some form of wealth, knowledge, or skill which you find lacking in others with whom you compare yourself, you have a certain inappropriate pride instead of gratitude and humility. The people under discussion here are riddled, anvita, with all of these. As a result, they are committed to pursuits and ends which are not becoming, ashuchi, not clean. They are committed to desires which cannot be fulfilled at all. Kama dushpuram ashritya, in the sense that their desire has no limit. This is why we liken desire to fire, called anala, the one who never says enough. Fire will never say enough, no matter how much fuel you pour upon it. It is always ready with its tongues out for more. There is a statement, desire is never quelled by enjoyment of objects of desire. Na jatu kamaha kamanam upabhogena samyati. If you throw fuel in the fire, it will not die, but burn more brightly. Similarly, by gaining desired objects, desire never gets quenched. Like the fire, desire is not satisfied by any oblation you offer. It only grows and demands either a repetition of the experience or a better experience. Following this insatiable desire, these people engage themselves, pravartante, in various activities. Why? Because of moha, false values and priorities based on a lack of discrimination. They attribute to something a value that it does not have. Seeing security, where there is no security, joy where there is no joy, help where there is no help. They pursue these ends with commitment. First, they arrive at improper evaluation of things, and then they pursue them. Asadgrahan grihitva pravartante. Due to lack of discrimination, they take what is devoid of value to have value, and then they are occupied. Unbecoming pursuits are not barred because everything is all right as long as it works. Convenience is the rule. चिन्तामपरिमेयाञ्च प्रलयान्तामुपाश्रिताः कामोपभोगपरमा एतावदिति निश्चिताः आशापाशशतैर्बद्धाः कामक्रोधपरायणाः ईहन्ते कामभोगार्थम् अन्यायेनार्थसञ्चयान्. Those committed to immeasurable concern until death, intent upon enjoyment of objects of desire, having concluded it, life is this much alone, committed to desire and anger, and bound by hundreds of fetters of hope, engage themselves in the accumulation of wealth illegitimately for the enjoyment of objects of desire. They do not think beyond the fulfillment of their desires. These are people whose concerns have no limits, aparimeya. They are full of anxieties. At least one would think they could give up their concerns in old age, leaving their affairs to their children and live a contemplative life. But their worries continue right up until the time of their death, pralayanta. Until then, they are worried about their possessions, who owes them money, their children, and so on. Given to these concerns, they are intent upon enjoyment of sense objects. That alone is foremost, nothing else. No dharma, no moksha, no viveka, only enjoyment. To the extent that objects are available to their satisfaction, they can be happy. And their pursuits are backed by the philosophy that there is nothing more in life. Life is this much alone. This much alone is the human end. There is nothing beyond it. This is their conclusion. Etavat iti nishchitaha. They are bound, baddhaha, and the binding material is hope and greed. If it is a single binding hope, one can perhaps free oneself from it. But they are bound by hundreds of aspirations. Asha pasha shataihi baddhaha. Once one is fulfilled, another arises, and thus there is no hope of fulfilling these hopes. And they are committed to desire and anger. Kama krodha parayana. Everybody has kama and krodha, but they are paramount for these people. We try to find means to be free from our anger, but anger is a value for them. It is a means of controlling people and getting what they want. The basis of their thinking and the activity born of that thinking is only in kama and krodha, not in dharma and adharma or nitya and anitya. These things do not come into the picture at all for them. Then what do? They engage themselves, ihante, for the purpose of enjoying desired objects. Kama bhogatam. First of all, in the accumulation of wealth. Artha sanchayan. How? Not by following legitimate means, but those that are anyaya, illegitimate, not sanctioned either by Shastra or society. The means they employ are both unlawful and unethical. Shankara explains that it is robbing others' wealth, occupying others' property, etc. encroaching upon land occupied by someone else, you may call yourself a pioneer, and anyone who comes later is an immigrant, but it is acquiring property illegitimately, anyayena. Wealth is gathered by these people not for distribution, but only for their own enjoyment. After a point, it can be purely egoistic also. Once you have whatever is necessary to live comfortably, further accumulation of wealth is different. You cannot travel in more than one car at a time. Even in one car, you can only occupy one seat. Similarly, even if you have many houses, some having even 25 rooms, you can only sit in one room in one house at a time. Then again, you can feed only one stomach. And generally, people who have this kind of wealth have digestive problems because of all their anxiety, chinta. They cannot enjoy their food at all. Once you have achieved a certain buying power, further amassing of wealth is purely ego inflation. You want to have more and more so that you can compare yourself favorably with others. We'll stop here today. We'll take up verse 13 tomorrow, 13 onwards. Just close our eyes and reflect on all that we have learned and listened. And the takeaway is that we use all of this to understand what is Daivi Sampat and what is Asari Sampat, what is to be cultivated, what is to be avoided. And in no way do we use this to judge ourselves or judge others. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Jai Gurudev. I will just play Nirvana Shatkam and then we can close.
मनोबुद्ध्यहङ्कार चित्तानिनाहम् न च श्रोत्रजिह्वे न च घ्राणनेत्रे न च व्योमभूमिर्न तेजो न वायु चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् न च प्राणसंज्ञो न वै पञ्चवायुः न वा सप्तधातु न वा पञ्चकोशः न वाक्पाणिपादौ न चोपस्थपायु चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् न मे द्वेषरागो न मे लोभमोहो मदोर्नैव मे नैव मात्सर्यभावः न धर्मो न चार्थो न कामो न मोक्षः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् न पुण्यं न पापं न सौख्यं न दुःखं न मन्त्रो न तीर्थं न वेदा न यज्ञः अहं भोजनं नैव भोज्यं न भोक्ता चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् न मे मृत्युशङ्का न मे जातिभेदः पिता नैव मे नैव माता न जन्म न बन्धुर्न मित्रं गुरुर्नैव शिष्यः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् अहं निर्विकल्पो निराकाररूपो विभुर्व्याप्य सर्वत्र सर्वेन्द्रियाणां सदा मे समत्वं न मुक्तिर्न बन्धः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्